everyone, and welcome back to a year in the TikTok of Splotchmaker. We are going over Splotchmaker again. We are going to ignore this one. This is the one that we left off on. We're going to start here, although I highly suspect that I probably won't cover these three unless this is... I see fat person something. So this one might be worth going over, but we'll just see. We'll just see. So we're just going to jump into it.
Every year, fatphobia becomes less and less acceptable. So in about 10 or 15 years, I don't want to see y'all pretending like you didn't enjoy and engage in fatphobic content.
So I didn't cover the last one because it was just her being facetious. But this, I don't think that... Here's the thing. I think you have, one, entirely too high expectations, and two, like, you're not really looking... You don't realize the ridiculousness of some of the statements that are claimed to be fatphobia. But there's a fatphobia... It's not so much that it becomes increasingly unacceptable, because I don't think that fatphobia is the issue. It's just, like, a general judgment of other people's physical appearances have become, like, just in general, have become less acceptable in society, and that kind of carries over to those that are bigger. However, your perception, I love the, like, fatphobia claims of, like, having a preference. You don't necessarily have a problem with fat people, but you don't want to date fat people. That, I don't think, will become, like, taboo to say that as much as you think it will. I don't think posting before and after pictures, which is also claimed to be fatphobic, will become an issue. So, putting that aside, this whole claim that's like, I don't want to see you guys in 10 or 15 years, like, way to say I'm condemning you ahead of time. Like, it's almost like, get on the bandwagon now, or you will pay, like, it's, I don't know. There's something, like, very threatening about it, and it's like, do you not hear yourself? Do you not hear yourself? This is not the way to get allyship. This is not the way for people to take you. Like, it's just, if anything, it reinforces the idea that this fat liberation movement, fat positivity movement, is a way for you guys to kind of try, at least, to get back at the people that bullied you in high school. And this kind of threat of, you know, where you're going to get called out, because it feels like it's a future call-out threat or something. I don't know. I want opinions. What do you guys think of this? Because to me, it sounds almost like a threat, and I'm not even sure.
Do I think there's ever a reason for weight loss? Yeah, there are tons of reasons why people lose weight. And they're valid, but they're also fatphobic. Do I think there's ever a reason?
What the fuck does that even mean, though? They're valid, but they're fatphobic. I wish she would list the reason, and it's like, maybe y'all will listen when a thin person says it. No, because to me, even with a thin person, it still sounds stupid. It does. It sounds stupid. Like, there's plenty of reasons to lose weight. They're valid, but they're also fatphobic. Like, the fuck? I wish she would give an example of what is a valid reason to lose weight that she views as also fatphobic. Losing weight for your health? Is that what she's talking about? Losing, like, why? Why? I'm curious.
For weight loss. Yeah.
It really bothers me when fat people get this question: who wants to be oppressed? That's just a Republican talking point. It's null, it's void, nada. I love going into the doctor for any sickness, any ailment, and having it be either attributed to my gender or my weight or both. It's usually weight. We don't want to be denied surgeries. We don't want to be denied medical care. We don't want people harassing us on the street. We don't want people hooking up with us just so it can be an inside joke with their friends. We don't want to be harassed online. We don't want to have no clothing options. It isn't that fat.
Okay, so this is where you start, like, the whole thing about every issue that I have is blamed on my weight. We've seen how that can lead to dangerous results I get that. You don't want to be called out on the street. There are people that do that. I'm not going to say that there's not. I've never seen it, but that's beside the point. Well, take that wholesale. I agree. You shouldn't be, like, harassed or called names on the street. I agree with that. With this whole, having sex with a fat person just for it to be an inside... It seems weird to have sex with a fat person for it to be an inside joke. I don't get that, but I'm going to just assume that this is me not understanding things. To me, that seems like a very weird reason to have sex with someone, but I don't know. So I'm going to leave that alone. But then you come to clothing options, and that's where it starts to be like, if you stuck to stuff like the doctors ignoring legitimate medical issues, I could at least, for the ones that we've seen, like with people that had uterine cancer that was ignored and that sort of thing, totally could see that. People calling you on the street, I can fully picture that happening. Some people are fucking assholes. Totally. Like, it's like almost like the equivalent of catcalling or something. Like, I don't think it happens as often as catcalling, but it may. I don't know. But I think that's a genuine thing to be concerned about. But then the thing is that you guys paired in with this, like, the thins are buying the bigger sizes, and that's somehow oppressive. Stores aren't carrying a size 30, and that's somehow oppressive. That starts to get into the realm of, that sounds fucking stupid and ridiculous. So this, why are you so desperate to be oppressed, comes not from the instances of medical or harassment that you guys are talking about, but then you lump it in with these things that are not oppression. And so it does seem like you are trying to fabricate things to add more legitimacy, when if you just focused on the medical stuff and people, like, calling you names or harassing you, and oh, also, like, the comments online, I don't view that as oppression, and here's why. Because no matter who you are online, if you're making content, you're gonna get hateful comments. That's the nature of the internet. It's not exclusive to fat people. They may target your weight because that's the easiest thing to target, but that can literally be for anything. They can target you because you're a woman. They can target you because of your race. They can target you because of your age. They can target you because you wear headbands. Like, it's not strictly because, like, they often take the easiest thing. Like, trolls will take the easiest thing to target you on, but it can also just be simply because of how you pronounced a word. Like, people will hate you for the most random shit. That doesn't make you oppressed. And so these bits of oppression, there's a few kernels of legitimacy in here, but it's completely overshadowed by shit like this, where you're like, the hateful comments online are indicative of oppression when they're not. Or the thins buying the bigger sizes is indicative of oppression when it's not. And by swirling all those together, you come across like a clown.
People want to be oppressed. It's that we are, and we're not going to shut up about it. Because we want it to change. We want to stop being oppressed. Just because you don't see it from your privileged point of view doesn't mean it's not happening.
But the thing is that even if we take it at your word, a lot of the things that you list aren't really seen as oppression. Hateful comments online will be hateful comments online will be hateful comments online. Like, that, it will happen. If they can't get you because you're fat, they'll get you for something else. The less that they can target you for, the more absurd their comments will be, but trolls will always take the lowest hanging fruit. So that's not really indicative. The clothes thing I've already talked about. That's not indicative of you being oppressed. And when you put those things up, like, it's a legitimate oppression, it does, like, and then you try to bridge that to racism, like, that whole talking point of fatphobia is rooted in racism. To me, that completely destroys your bid for oppression, because I don't think you can compare a few hateful comments online and not being able to find your size in clothing stores to black people who are disproportionately gunned down by police can be attacked within their own neighborhood just for walking around. Like, those two things are not equal. There's a very big difference here. And so, yeah, when you tie it to racism, which has serious oppression issues, and you're like, well, I can't find my size in clothing stores. Like, no, it does look like you are just desperate to be oppressed. It does. Because it's like comparing apples and oranges. So, and willing it down to a Republican talking point, I think, ignores the spirit of the statement. Because this, you're so desperate to be oppressed, is not because you're just like, I'm fat and I'm oppressed. It's that your citation of your oppression comes across as ridiculous. And so it seems like you're grasping at straws, which seems desperate. And it seems like you're desperate to be oppressed.
Okay, this is the fatness spectrum. A small fat is a size 18 and lower, 1x or 2x. I'm a 4x, 5x. I'm a size 26, sometimes 28. I am the super fat you say I'm speaking over. Okay, this is the fatness spectrum. A small fat...
Can I just say I kind of like the infighting? I don't have much to say about this one, but I just... This is kind of the issue with your fatness spectrum and stuff, is that then you try to silence people in your own community.
I literally cannot tell you the last time I had a cheeseburger. Y'all keep proving that you don't have fat people in your lives, that you don't know any real fat people. We don't eat impossibly large amounts of food. And, I'm vegan.
So this is one of those things where you're arguing the literal meaning of the sentence and ignoring the spirit of the argument. I don't think that this was phrased nicely, so I understand the attitude coming back at it. But this isn't like it's not specifically using cheeseburgers. It's like cheeseburgers are the representation of overly processed food that you eat. And even if you're vegan, you can eat a lot of really shit vegan foods. Oreos are vegan, for fuck's sake. Something being vegan doesn't make it good for you. And I don't think that necessarily all fat people eat impossibly, insanely large amounts of food. I think they eat more food than the average person, and at the very least more calorically dense food than the average person. But I don't think that they realize how much they eat, because your perception of how big a portion is changes based on how much you eat regularly. And so once you start measuring stuff out, you realize, oh wow, I was eating a shit ton more than I really needed. So and I'm sorry, but I agree. I don't think fat people are oppressed. Like, I think that there's probably some issues. I think that there can be some equity issues for a group of people without it being oppression, if that makes sense. And I think that there are some equity issues regarding the medical community, and that can definitely be an issue. That being said, a lot of what is listed as oppression, I don't think falls under oppression at all. Again, I continually say it, but the whole concept of, like, bigger sizes, especially, like, in thrift shops and stuff, and thinner people taking those sizes as a form of oppression, it's just, like, whatever. But this whole argument of, I'm vegan and can't tell you the last time I had a cheeseburger and stuff is completely ignoring the spirit of the argument. The point is that I guarantee you eat more than you realize, because it is so easy with how calorically dense a lot of the easy grab and go foods are. You don't realize how much you're eating. You don't realize that your portion sizes can be majorly off. It's not like we think we can eyeball things, but oftentimes we really can't. You gotta measure it out. Honey, I'm not making that much off. Like, I just... I think I make per video probably about $20. Not that that's bad. I'm actually pretty happy with the amount of money that I get to supplement my income and everything. Like, it's nice. But it's, like, for the entire month, it's under 200 typically. So, like, not making thousands off of your content, honey. It's more than just mocking your content, because I don't really feel like I mock Splotchmaker's content specifically, at least, very much. I do have issues with what she says, and I do voice my opinions, but I don't think that's just outright mocking. I'm not going to say I've never mocked a fat creator, because there are people that have pissed me. I think I mock Fat Sapphic Bro a couple of times. Just the master level researcher shit just gets me every time. I'm not sure what point is being made here, other than, like, how can these people make money off my content? But it's like, most people aren't just taking your content, putting it up, and making thousands off of it. And it's not even necessarily that they're just mocking it. They're providing commentary on talking points that you put out there regularly. So it's not just that they're like, oh, a herder, look at this fatty. Like, it's not just a mocking frenzy. It's not just attacking you because you're fat and look at they're making thousands. That's not how that works. It's general commentary against your own talking points that more people tend to agree with, therefore it gets more views, or at the very least the incendiary nature of the fat acceptance movement does just attract more viewers. But I don't know. I just wanted to chime in real quick with that.
That's the difference between me and you. Because while you were sitting around, waiting, doing niche, I was out, making moves. That's the difference.
So, because we covered this one, which I still thought was just this weird superiority bullshit, I did feel the need to cover. They did, in fact, get in, which good for them. Good for her. She says she's going to be a therapist. Oh, so it's for clinical mental health counseling, Masters of Science. I'm going to end with LPC, which I'm not sure what that means, but I know that there's just, like, all of these letters can mean something very specific, but I'm going to assume that it just kind of is connected with counseling or therapy. But I just wanted to cover it since we covered the first one. I'm happy for her that she got in. I don't have a whole lot to comment on it.
As a fat person, this is something that I never see enough of. Fat people with nails. You never see chubby hands with nails. Always slim, slender fingers. And we need more chubby hand representation. They're so cute. As a fat...
So this is something that I see not all the time, but also I wouldn't say it's an uncommon thing to see either. And I just don't really understand the overfixation on, like, these, like, small things of representation of, chubby hands. Well, then I guess put your hands out. Like, I just have never really thought that much about it. Like, sometimes with the calls for representation, I understand. Like, the getting rid of the kill your gaze trope in media. Like, I get that. Having more representation of there being LGBTQ people in media and not have the whole story center around their identity. I totally understand that. Even those that want fat representation, like, I don't have hugely strong feelings one way or the other, but fine, whatever. But this specifically chubby hands, I don't know why. I was like, that's a really odd thing to get fixated on for me. So the caption says, "Can we please stop countering body shaming with more body shaming? It's not feminist nor funny to respond to a man shaming women by body shaming them back. It only perpetuates the toxic cycle. When you mock their height, size, etc., you are further stigmatizing good people with those traits. Stop it." And the thing is that I would agree with this more if they didn't contradict themselves, because we've seen them belittle thinner people. Like, you can't have it both ways. I agree that I don't think that the answer to men body shaming women is then to say, well, you're short or you have a small dick or whatever. That goes all the way around then. You can't body shame thin people. You can't, like, I don't know, maybe they haven't. Maybe I'm getting that confused with another creator, since I did Feminist Land Whale right before this, who definitely body shames other people. But, I don't know. Thoughts. I want to hear your thoughts.
I'm answering questions off of my story right now, and one of them was, when did you realize it's okay to be fat? So actually in 2018, I was on sort of like a weight loss kick trying to do that. And then as I got into 2019, the beginning of 2019, my body started changing. I started gaining a little bit of weight, and I was like really struggling with internalized fat phobia because my entire family has taught me from birth, just picked apart my body, said fat is horrible. But my body was changing, so I needed to dress it. I've only thought about the origins of how I unlearned it or the inciting moments a few times, but it really was just fat fashion and fat influencers who post fashion outfits or daily life content. I started watching.
I would like to say something that I think is being missed because Splotchmaker, I believe, is early 20s, like early 20s. So this talk of 2018, 2019 would mean that they could very well have still been a teenager during this. And I think that getting comfortable with your own body, regardless of how it looks, and regardless of what issues you may have with it, is also just kind of a part of like growing older. Is as you get older, you care a little less about the general, like what's culturally seen as beautiful. It's not to say that like you don't care at all, but it matters to you a little less, especially as you have more shit going on in your life. You're going to college, you have a job, you have hobbies and stuff. How you look becomes less of a priority the more things you have going on in your life. And so I think that probably following other people with her body size probably did help that. I'm not going to say it didn't. But I think also part of it was just getting older and having more shit going on in your life. And it's okay to be fat. Like, I think to a certain extent you just become more comfortable with the idea.
Emma Thompson Hill in 2019 to kind of figure out clothing hauls and like where I could get clothes that fit my body now that I wasn't straight size. And I had never seen a fat person that was happy. Never. I didn't think that was a thing. Because at that point, my social media was just full of before and after weight loss pages and things like that. So, like, I was just really in this environment at home and online that was really fat phobic. I watched more of her videos. I followed her and I followed other fat creators, and I had a moment to myself. I'm like, they look good when they're fat. They're not supposed to look good when they're fat, but they do.
Or so maybe what it also is that you just learned how to dress your body. Like you got to see how people who are really into fashion and stuff can, because to a certain extent I understand that part where it's like you just thought your hair was for her it's body. For me it was like my hair, because I have thick, fairly coarse hair that I just never did anything with because it was always really thick. Learning about hair care products and stuff, and I use much better products on my hair now, and it's not as coarse, and I've learned how to style it a little bit more. And so there's just a bit of, with knowledge on how to look better with what you have comes confidence. So is it really that you had this big revelation that it was okay to be fat? Maybe you did. I'm not saying that. I'm not denying that realization. I'm just wondering if perhaps what part of it was that you learned that you still had options despite being fat.
I realized it was okay to be fat when I saw other people okay with being fat. And not just being okay with it, but actively trying not to change it and living their life to the fullest. They had belly lines and big stomachs and big arms, and they didn't care. From there, I unfollowed all of the weight loss pages, and I just followed a whole bunch of fat creators, which then led me into following people into fat liberation, which then got me interested in fat liberation and fat positivity, true body positivity. And then I started following people that posted infographics, disproving all of these things I had thought that were fact, and I was presented with new information that I just hadn't had before because the world's fat phobic and doesn't want you to realize that you can be fat and be fine. So sometime in 2019, I realized it was okay to be fat because so many people were, and I had tried so hard, and it made.
And that's a false equivalency to make. I realized it was okay to be fat because so many people are. If they're around your age, the it's okay to be fat aesthetically, whatever, like fine, whatever. But it will affect your health, especially if you are like morbidly obese. Like it's going to affect your health as you get older. You don't feel it right now because you're in your 20s and the body's pretty resilient in your 20s, but the body can only take so much and can only compensate for so long. And you'll see it as you get older. I'm not saying don't dress yourself nicely as you are now. I think that that's like doing your makeup, looking nice. I don't think that that's a bad thing to do for anyone. If it makes you feel better about yourself, dress yourself nicely, put on the makeup, be confident. Yeah. But I don't know, like it feels like there's a couple of different meanings here to the it is okay to be fat. There is the it is okay to be fat as in this is the body I have and I want to try to make it look as nice as possible, which I agree with. I think that that's, yeah, work with your body where it is now. Doesn't mean that you can't strive for improvements. I really struggle with dressing nicely and stuff because my go-to is jeans and a t-shirt every fucking time. I am not a dress-up sort of person, but I'm trying to become better at dressing my body in ways that are professional and look nice. But that's not exclusive to fat people. But that doesn't mean that being morbidly obese is good for your health. That doesn't mean that it's okay to be morbidly obese indefinitely. Personally, I mean, preferably you would never be morbidly obese, but if you are, it really should be seen as a temporary situation and maybe work your way out of that.
Made me miserable, and I realized I had a choice between staying miserable in a body that was not going to change back to being thin. That thin ideal was gone after reading from so many scholars, my personal experience, everyone else's experiences. I realized I can live my life and be fat, or stall it and keep being miserable. I hope that answered everything.
So actually, I do support the concept of I can just accept where I am now and not let it affect my happiness, but I still think you can work towards something better while still being in that mindset. But anyway, we're going to end it here. Quick couple of updates. One, I'm fucking burned out with my classes. I can't work ahead at all. They lock everything by week. So almost every assignment is like, here it is on Sunday and it's due by Saturday. So like I have to scramble to fit, and some of these aren't like small projects. So that's really annoying. And it limits like how many sub jobs I can take, which is really annoying. I did lose another pound though, so that's cool. And I'm currently working on my first ever knit sweater. I'm not even halfway through the front panel and having a little bit of a relapse of an old repetitive motion injury, so I'm going to have to take a small break, but I'm very excited for it, and I'm looking forward to finishing it. Anyone else working on anything? I like hearing like creative pursuits or maybe how you're doing with your New Year's resolutions or all of that. I had to take a break for this past week on running because I had a cold, and then I've had this lingering like stuffy nose that even with the good Sudafed is still not going away completely, and it's really fucking annoying the shit out of me. And then on top of that, I have a small cough, so I just haven't been comfortable with the idea of going for a run yet, but I'm hoping to pick that back up next week. So how are things going for you? My voice is starting to go out, so I think I'm going to just leave it here. Thank you for watching. Take care of yourselves, and I'll see you next time.